Hello everybody, it's Warhammer here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on the Tomb of the Shifting Sands playing as the Vampire Counts against the forces of the Beastmen. And I do believe it's actually the word of the shadow he gave, but same thing, you guys know that. And for my lord here, we are actually running Helmeme and Ghorst, so it was requested in the comments that I run a game with Helmeme and Ghorst. And so here you have him, the most OP Lord choice in the game. Of course, he's incredibly popular, roughly on par with other powerhouses such as Bordello and Alethan are. But in all seriousness, I figured against Beastmen, there's not much that can go wrong. Beastmen obviously a bit of a favorable matchup. My opponent actually chose this against me, so good on him. But I did decide to try to run Helmeme and Ghorst here and make him work. So Helmeme, his biggest issue is speed. If you put him on foot, he's a little quicker, but it doesn't really mean very much. He's still slow. Otherwise, if you put him on his brother's Ghorst corpse cart, he's only got 23 speed. Sure, he's got 5k HP, which is great, but he's just so slow. His melee stats are actually not terrible. 49 and 35 is really not the worst by caster standards. And he actually does have quite a few solid abilities. Liber Noctis, it does self-damage, but it causes huge improvements to Winds of Magic. He does have Magical Animus, which is leadership buff. I did bring Van Hels's Dance Macabre, Invocation of the Heck. He can actually awaken from the grave, which raises Graveguard instead of zombies, so that's a pretty cool ability. And then he does have the Reliquary of Corruption, which is basically a Mortis Engine effect. Plus, of course, Vigor Mortis and Unholy Lodestone, so he just delivers a bunch of buffs. He's got Master of the Undead, so if he's not in combat alongside the Unholy Lodestone, he can be generating huge value for his surrounding troops, like huge amounts of healing. And Helmeme and Ghorst is really pretty powerful. It's just that he's so slow, which makes him such garbage. Alongside him here, we did bring a Necromancer on a horse to give us a little bit of mobile support. He does have Raised Dead, Invocation of the Heck, Forbidden Rod for even more Winds of Magic, Curse of Undeath, as well as the Master of the Dead. So, lazily looking to get as much Winds of Magic as possible this game and get some good old zombie summons, because while the Graveguard summon is cool and pretty powerful, it is also very expensive. For our front line here, it is a mix of Sternsmen as well as a bunch of skeleton spears on the flanks, and then some zombies surrounding that, zoning my opponent away. And then we do have our Cav contingent, which is really the main strike force here. Chillgeists and Dire Pack over here, Blood Knights over here, and then Blood Knights and Direwolves over there. So very heavy contingent of cavalry, supported by the Necromancer. I figured there isn't much my opponent can do to stop this. And if, for example, my opponent did decide to bring in, there you can see Cygors teeing off on me, but had my opponent, for example, decide to go for throwing axes, these guys would be pretty good against them. The Chillgeists can tank them okay, we can drop a Van Hels's Dance Macabre, get the Chillgeists near them, and then the Chilling Aura slows them down by 36%, and they are goners. Now for my opponent's build here, he did decide to go with a bit of a Beastmen bunker, so he's got two Cygors who are already lobbing rocks at my poor infantry, not doing very much because it's skeleton spears, so who cares. A front line of Ungor spears, so looking to be pretty cheap, backed by more Ungor spears with shields, and then two Bestigors providing a bit of an AP core. For his lord, he did bring Morgur, who's got, of course, his two summons and Foe Seeker and Cult of Violence. So all in all, a very potent sort of selection, and he's dirt cheap and tanky, which is good. Very important for Beastmen who have leadership issues. And then Bray Shaman of Beasts here, who's got Flock of Doom and the Transformation of Kadon, which I don't think is really worth it. Transformation of Kadon's cool for cheap Terror Bomb, but against Beastmen? Or against Vampire Counts who just don't care about terror? I don't know if that's worth it. Wild Heart, though, will give him some Winds of Magic. He is on a chariot, so he'll be able to do some damage, though no Jack and Dagger, so no bonuses or to his Winds of Magic regen outside of that trait. Then he does have 3 units of Centaurs, which is a bit of an interesting choice, perhaps looking to zone away hounds and harass units like bats. But they did spawn all the way out here, and they are now being chased down and pursued by my cavalry contingent. And you can see we've actually sent our Chillgeists on a path to try to intercept Blood Knights converging from behind. And now we're going to home in. I realized I wouldn't be able to catch this pocket, but the Dire Pack's going to get the snare. And the Dire Pack is devastating against units. Against units like Centaurs, the Dire Pack is overpowered as all hell. They've got ludicrous amount of damage output. They've got a 14 bonus for large. They've got 32 melee attack. They will just mince through these Centaurs with contemptuous ease. And in the meantime, the Chillgeists here, they do take a bit of a charge. They do take a little bit of a beating. But we are going to be able to now converge on this pocket and collapse it, because Blood Knights do not mess around. Just look at them as they slam into these guys. These guys immediately lose like 1,000 HP just on the charge, and then completely buckle and vanish. So some brutal stuff there to Dire Pack, then promptly chasing my opponent away. And in the meantime, my opponent has done some Cygor work over here. He has weakened my Sternsmen. He has chipped away at some of my troops. I forgot about these zombies. I don't know if they just walk so long over the hill. I'm not entirely sure. But we have removed 2 Centaurs from play. So that's 1,400 gold. We're up, essentially. It's not always an accurate. Sometimes if you remove like a bunch of chaff, but keep in mind if you're able to get these free picks, it's really useful. My opponent has gotten some damage here on my Sternsman. He's definitely gotten some early damage with Cygors, but really nothing comparing to this devastating cavalry charge that we just got, and eradicated 2 reasonably valuable units that could honestly do some help cleaning up chaff, harassing my corpse cart. I do think I forgot to mention I do have a corpse cart with a balefire here, Vigor Mortis, and balefire. So balefire is one of those abilities I've tried in campaign, and I've been trying to make it work. I'm trying to get value out of it for a while now. It's actually incredibly potent. If you get multiple units around your corpse cart with balefire, you can completely siphon off your opponent's Winds of Magic. He's getting no Winds of Magic at all. The problem is that that's kind of difficult to achieve. Usually your opponent doesn't clump that much, but I figure against Beastmen who do have to kind of blob around their lord and play safe, it might be useful. So we are pushing in. Over here you can see the Centaurs are going to start mulching through the zombies. So like I was saying, you can mulch through cheap trash. And I do have a lot of cheap trash. In the meantime, over here, the Spearmen and the zombies are engaging on the Cygor. My opponent is starting to lob rocks on more valuable targets here, the Blood Knights. But I decide, you know what? We are going to dive in over here. We're going to go after the Ungor Spears, and we're actually going to look to breach the line here, because that's where our Sternmen are, that's where our most powerful contingent is, and if we can breach this, we'll be in a good spot. If these guys tear out, my opponent's suddenly going to have a hole in his line that we can exploit and abuse. Now, elsewhere my opponent did have, you can see he's summoning another Feral Manticore, so he's got 2 Feral Manticores on the ground right now. But honestly, they're not going to do that much. We summoned some Graveguard over here to patch up the line. Graveguard will chop their way through these Ungor Spears pretty easily. And now Helmeme Ghorst is in there. He's got Magical Animus going, and we've got all this region going. And soon we're going to be in here with a Reliquary of Corruption, melting these Bestigors away. And that's very, very useful. My opponent does summon some Chaos Spawn over here, but really against a horde of Anti-Large with Blood Knights and Dire Pack and all that stuff, it's really not where they want to be in life. I actually pull away here, which I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have stayed in. My opponent does pop a Flock of Doom, which does some damage. But all in all, definitely not where he wants to be in life right now. The Feral Manticore getting eaten alive by the Dire Pack as well as the Chillgeists. Unfortunately, though, my opponent is focusing pretty heavily on the Balefire cart here, and it's actually getting some really good value. Now, unfortunately, it didn't get a lot of value before my opponent got those 2 Manticores off. But now it's basically going to be blocking off his Winds of Magic. He's probably not really able to generate much, if any, anymore. And so he really needs to get rid of it, because it's all these Bestigors and the Ungors and the Ungor Spears and all these units. Not only are they getting a buff from Vigor Mortis, they're also getting, they're constantly, my opponent is losing, so they're not gaining Winds of Magic at all. But we do get a summon here. The Graveguard actually pulling around the flank. Over here, the zombies holding up my opponent. Summoned unit, so who cares? I do believe they're a summoned unit. Maybe they aren't. It's sometimes a bit hard to tell. The Chill guys do manage to eradicate the Feral Manticores, and although my opponent does get a nice little Flock of Doom here, we are still able to push through. You can see an Invocation of the Heck going down in pocket over here to keep it intact. And the Corpse Car with Balefire running away, denying that Winds of Magic. As we finally do breach the front line here and run down these Ungor Spears. You can see already my opponent losing these troops to routes. On the periphery, these trades are basically even. Over here, this is an incredibly favorable trade because the Bestigors are bogged down doing something stupid. And here you can see we are going to be able to force routes. We're going to be able to start breaking off these elite troops. And Helmeme Ghorst, he's still in here. The Necromancer's in here. Helmeme Ghorst popped his Liber Noctis now. So he's got his recharge going. And we're able to just bog down these troops. We do get another zombie summon here, trying to tie down these Cygors, prevent them from acting. And the Feral Manticores are almost both offline now. And my opponent's Spray Shaman here, trapped among cavalry and units like that. And he really doesn't want to be here. This is not where he wants to be in life. And he's getting pretty diced up. You can see the Chill guys here running amok. And Bestigors, they do have some good, Bestigors do have okay leadership, but it's only 66, I think. So they do get tear routed here, which is a huge win for me. Means we've removed one of my opponent's last elite units from the field. And once the Cygors get isolated, I can honestly beat them down with like skeleton summons or zombies. Now they're not that much of a concern. Blood Knights over here are getting surrounds. They're trying to get in there and do some damage, and Blood Knights will do a lot of damage to Cygors. They've only got 50 armor. You can actually see the effect from Helmeme Ghorst as well, draining away the HP out of the Cygors and Morgor, which is a little amusing, but oh well. Dire Pack is about to get annihilated, but, you know, it's whatever. They've done their job. The Chill guys still running amok on 90 kills now, tearing apart these Bestigors. This is really kind of an optimal target for them. They've got high weapon strength, relatively speaking. They've got very high melee attack, and, well, not very high, but they've got respectable melee attack, and they're able to try to just chew through these Bestigors pretty effectively with their 24 melee defense. In the meantime, over here, the Brave Shaman of Beast is falling apart, his leadership wavering, and he's kind of going to fail here. And if we take an overarching look at the battlefield, we can see things are starting to move in my favor. The Necromancer over here is able to pop another Forbidden Rod, start healing. My cavalry is kind of bouncing back and forth between this pocket of Bestigors and this pocket of Cygors. We're able to break another unit of Bestigors. They are fleeing from the field. And the Cygors are starting to die. They're not able to shoot anymore because they're tied down in close quarters. The Blood Knights, of course, are demolishing them. Morgan not really providing that much of boost, and yeah, they're going down. They're getting torn down pretty quickly. And the Blood Knights here, they do get a little stuck, but we're getting to get a nice little invocation on the heck in there. It gets both the Blood Knights. We're then able to tie down this British Shaman of Beast. My opponent does get another Flock of Doom, but the Balefire Corpse Shard is actually still in here, really hurting his ability to generate Winds of Magic. And over here, we are actually going to charge in. My opponent turns away his Bestigors, which I'm not entirely sure why, from the Necromancer, and they end up routing. So we probably should have done this counter charge there, because the charge bonus would have probably kept them in. Regardless, the Necromancer does force these guys off, and the Bestigors are removed from play. The game actually was pretty tight. I didn't, because the build here isn't a conventional vampire counts built against Beastmen, or more importantly, our Lord isn't choice as conventional. It's definitely a little bit tough. Helmeme Ghorst, of course, Helmeme Ghorst, struggling a little slow. The Mortison's effect, probably not the most useful against the Beastmen here, but now you can see the Cygors, despite their high kill count, are both being torn down. They actually have the same kill count, 126. This one's beating on this Corpse Cart with Balefire. We're trying to pull it away, but poor little guy just can't make it. But the Blood Knights are in there. They're tearing these guys apart. Cygor is going to topple over here, I think. Look at this guy trying to walk away, but the Blood Knights are just so brutal. Guy's going to fall. Oh, there he goes. Crumbling to his knees. And both Cygors removed from play at this point. It's going to be GG for the Vampire Counts. So obviously this match, bit of memery going on. This match is incredibly favorable for Vampire Counts. I would say that if you're playing against an equally skilled player as Beastmen, you have no chance in this matchup, really. I would say that if you're playing, honestly, against the worst player than you, as Beastmen, and your opponent goes for a serious build, there's a good chance you're still going to lose. Because Beastmen are just struggle so much against Fear and Terror. They don't have the ranged weaponry to counter. And I didn't really go, but the more meta build for Vampire Counts would involve Terrorgeists, would probably involve like Manfred on a dragon or something, or Red Duke on a dragon, and then, or maybe the new Blood Dragon on a dragon. You never know nowadays. And then a Mortis engine, which would be just brutal for Beastmen to deal with. They really don't have the tools for it. And in this situation where Helmeme Ghorst is just not all that useful, it worked out okay, but it worked out more okay for the Beastmen. But still, it was a pretty decisive win for the Vampire Counts. Obviously, the chaff line got mulched. All 4 zombies gone. 3 of the 4 skeletons gone. We lost both direwolf units. But the Blood Knight's doing great. Helmeme Ghorst not bad. His Graveyard Summon actually helped hold the line together at one point. And I do think that his AoE Reliquary of Corruption was definitely helping melt those Bestigors, which were otherwise a bit of a nuisance in that fight. They definitely could have done a lot of work. That's odd. I thought one of these guys had I thought they had the same kill count. I guess I was switching between the wrong units, but either way, the Corpse Cart with Balefire I think actually had a tangible effect on that match. It's kind of hard to tell. You can see the British Shaman got ridiculous kill counts there, probably from Flock of Doom, I'd think, but or maybe it counts the Manticore kills he got against trash troops. But the Corpse Cart with Balefire definitely I think slowed down my opponent's Winds of Magic generation. Definitely hurt him quite a bit in that match, but I do keep in mind it's a cheap unit, so you're paying 400 gold or for 25 or whatever. So it's not like, and you do still get Vigor Mortis, so it can have a tangible effect for a very cheap cost. You're basically giving up a unit of bats or something, or like a unit of spears, to get a Corpse Cart on the field with Balefire. So it's really not that much of a sacrifice, I think. Yeah, Blood Knights, Chill Guys, Graveguard, or Stern Guardsmen, of course, doing an amazing job. Blood Knights gained 2 and 3 chevrons in this match, which is crazy. They really worked over a lot of the single models and the smaller entities that came on, like the Beastmen, like the Chaos Spawn, like the Cygors. They got huge amounts of value on the Cygors. They tore apart the Centaurs in the early game and did some work. The Chillgeist, of course, so good. Chillgeist are a fun combo with Dire Pack, actually. If you're playing against factions that like to kite and skirmish with you, pop a Van Hels's Dance Macabre. If you're really cheeky, you can bring a Vampire of Shadows. Drop a Vel'Koz Miasma and a Van Hels's Dance Macabre, and get close with your Chillgeists, and then combined with the Dire Pack, you'll shred through any lower-end cavalry unit. Anything from Illyrian Reavers to Dark Riders, any of those units. The only unit that might give you trouble is something like Slanish's Harvesters, obviously, or those sorts of light gab with magic damage. But for everything else, they will do an amazing job. So do keep it in mind. Regardless, well played to my opponent. Satha still owns. Obviously, it's a tough matchup for Beastmen. Even with a meme build like this, the Vampire Counts have a huge edge, in my opinion. Cool thing with the Cygors, I don't think... I do have a few little critiques here. I do think that, for one, I think instead of Cygors, you're better off with Minotaurs. Cygors just don't really serve too much of a purpose here, in my opinion. If your opponent goes super chaff heavy, they're not really going to get value out of their rocks. Like 126 skills looks great on paper, but what are you killing? Skull and Spears and Zombies, it doesn't matter. And they don't really deal with large, which is really your big problem. Your big problem is Terrorgeist. Your big problem is Vargulfs and Mortis engines to an extent, and dragons and all that sort of stuff. And to a lesser extent, also Blood Knights and units like that. They're a huge issue for Beastmen. So I think throwing axes are better as well. Another investment you might want to consider. And then rather than Centaurs, I would definitely bring the Sons of Ghorst, the Regiment of Renown. Why? Well, because they've got magic attacks. You can bring for these 3 units. My opponent could have brought Sons of Ghorst and a single unit of Centaurs with great weapons, which I think would have done him much better. Sons of Ghorst can actually beat stuff like Chillgeists or Hex Wraiths in combat, or at least trade really well with them. And then great weapons will actually give you some popping power against units like Graveguard, units like Blood Knights, and that sort of stuff. And that's my 2 cents that you're better off with those units or throwing axes. But though you definitely want some magic damage. But regardless, well played to my opponent. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. You got to see some Helmeme Ghorst in action. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, as usual, don't hesitate to post them. I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.